Man, that was a long intro. Anyway, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Vote 101. I am Nathaniel Donaldson. I'm having to look at like 3 cameras here to keep up with everything. But we're going to do our best not to interrupt each other and talk about what God has done for us. Got a big one. Got a good one today. I'm really excited about it. But I do have to address something that some people have, I guess, addressed to me. If any of you have looked on iTunes and noticed all the old podcasts are not there anymore, it's because I've been a little stingy and has not wanted to pay you have to have a host website to put your podcasts on there just so you can get it on iTunes and all this kind of mumbo jumbo. Look it up if you want to understand it more, but the only way you can have them stay on there permanently is if you pay, and I have not wanted to pay, but I'm going to suck it up and just pay. So it's going to be on YouTube forever though. So just don't worry about it ever being gone, unless YouTube just decides they don't like Vote 101 and just want to wipe it off the face of the earth. But it is on YouTube forever, and I will work on trying to get the podcast to stay on iTunes. But I'm really excited today because I have a good young man. I say young man, but you're taller than me and you look older than me sometimes, so it's kind of bad. But to say that, but I have Cameron Horton. I'm not gonna drop the Horton joke there. I wanted to, but I'll be nice to you.
What Horton joke? I've never heard one.
I'm pretty sure you've heard that ever since you were 4. Well, whenever the movie came out, they're like, oh, hey. Anyway, I do want to say, Cameron, thank you for taking your time. Yep. I mean, it's a Saturday. I know.
Thanks for having me.
I'm super excited for this. So, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to ask you, just I guess, one question to kind of get into it here. Sorry, I wasn't actually ready for that. Let's see. I got a couple things over here. I don't want you to see them.
Mm-mm.
I mean, you probably can name some off right off the bat, but the topic we're talking about today is taking things for granted. And what I want to ask you is, what are some things, not in the spiritual aspect, just like in normal day life, what are some things that you think that we just take for granted?
First thing that comes to mind would definitely be air conditioning.
Oh, that's the first thing. That's the first thing. I asked Andy, and she was like, air conditioning. That's the first thing, because nobody thinks about it until you walk outside and stand out there for 5 minutes.
It's like the hottest weekend of the year right now. And
it's 103 or 104.
It's hot out there.
Yeah, and that's not even the heat index, I think. Of course, I don't know, but you want to get your skin roasted, just walk outside for a few minutes. But anything else come to mind? There ought to be.
And any form of technology, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
Just the fact that, you hear all those people talk about, government conspiracy, like an EMP or something. If that ever happened, we wouldn't have anything.
It would be devastating.
Yeah.
Gosh, the internet.
People would have, full-on breakdowns.
I think if they just lost their phone, people would just go insane. It's like, half of my life is wiped out. But running water, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Whenever we lose power, probably about a couple months ago when we lost power, man, that was there. Did y'all lose power? Do you remember when that tornado came through?
Yeah, we actually, we didn't lose power until some lady had a car accident and hit a light pole. We avoided it until then, and then after that we were out for a day, and then we went and got the generator. My uncle went and bought a generator for his house to keep his food cold and stuff. And then after he let his cool off, he was bringing it to the house, and I was helping him hook it up. And we plugged it up, cranked it, and then we walk in the house and the lights are on. And my grandmother's like, "Did you hook up the generator?" And I was like, "That doesn't go to all the light. The power came back on as soon as we plugged in the thing."
Well, that's kind of a wasted effort, I guess.
Yeah.
No, we lost it as soon as that. Of course, the tornado was right above us. It didn't touch until it hit Caney Lake, because we live right on Caney Lake. Well, I'm sorry. That was incorrectly spoken. The tornado actually went around our house. We saw a path where it went. It tore up the woods behind our house. It went right by our house. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was an act of God to get that tornado to go around the house. But it went through the lake and all that kind of stuff. But we lost power instantly. And so it was a long time for a lot of people. I know Rustin had it worse than we did. But I'm going off in this long story. This is a bad rabbit trail. But anyway, the running water thing, that was terrible. Actually, we had water, but we didn't have hot water.
Yeah. And,
man, dude, when you take a shower, that'll wake you up. I mean, you feel really nice afterwards, but it's almost like it's almost like it's a torture method when you're going in there. But, so, running water, electricity, I mean, it's really technology.
Mm-hmm.
transportation. I think a lot of people take that for granted. That's for sure. Because, there's a lot of people that don't. They have to walk to work or take a bike.
Yeah. After I wrecked my car, it was a pain having to share a car with my grandmother, and then.
But I thought I had, like, how often do we take things God has provided for us for granted until we lose them? God have provided something for us. I mean, like for instance, I mean, we're in a fantastic church, our home church, Hodge United Pentecostal Church, and this is a nice building. There's some churches that are a whole lot smaller than ours.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, I think, I'm not talking about just our church in general. I'm talking about just like any kind of big church. Some people just take those buildings for granted. It's like you could be in a small church, you could be in a house, just trying to, have a service and get by. I mean, I've been in a few services when I was younger that they just had service in their house. It was pretty neat. It's kind of cool how you can do that, but I wouldn't want to do that all the time because you get kind of claustrophobic, especially if you're Pentecostal, all that kicking and hooting and hollering, it can get very claustrophobic.
Yeah, there's people that don't even have houses. They're just like, in other countries, they're just like outside.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think about that. I'm thinking about I'm taking a building for granted, I guess. But, so, a few things that we could possibly take for granted, like I was just saying, is how blessed we are. And that can go for anything. We are, as our church, we are very blessed to just have a strong presence of God and have people that are just willing to tear down the walls of like all the flesh that we try to block off the presence sometimes. And we have people in our church that are just like, no, I'm not going to let this slip by. I mean, we have only so many days until we could possibly die, or if the Lord comes back or something. And we got to take every advantage we have. And I'm very thankful for being in a church that allows the presence of God to just flow, and not, we're not going. Okay, no, we're going to put a cap on it. This is as far as we're going. No, I'm very glad about that.
Yeah, I agree with that because, like, that's one of the things that I think about first when I think about this church, because that's something we could all take for granted, like people that don't think about it, because, like, there's been so many times I've been out there praying, and, like, you and the rest of the youth group, like, the guys and stuff, they'd be, like, praying with me in, like, 10 seconds. I'm praying, and then I feel like 30 different hands touch me, and I'm like, where did y'all come from? Like, especially when I was on the balcony the other day, and y'all, like, ran up the stairs.
They all just, like, ransacked you. You ever do that little prayer peek, like, when you're praying, you look down, see whose shoes, like, okay, this guy wears this shoes a lot. Anyway, I'm not gonna get up into that. Relationships, and I don't mean like dating relationships. I mean like friendships, godly friendships. Because I know sometimes I can take that for granted. Of like a person that's very wise in my life, I could just take that relationship for granted, and just not always want to listen to what they say, or not take the time to go hang out with them or talk to them every now and again. Because there are people that are in my life that I need to cherish, because they're not going to be here as long as I will. Lord willing, that I live longer, they will not always be here. So I need to cherish the moments that I have with them. Like, for instance, my grandfather. He is a man of God, and I put man in 2 syllables there because he's the real deal when it comes to living for God. And anytime you talk to him about something when it comes to a spiritual aspect or something, he's always got something to add to it, always got a thought to add, and he's helped me come up with a few ideas when it comes to talking, like in front of the youth or something, or for this podcast, he's helped me come up with a few ideas. I mean, and I'm really thankful for him, our pastor, for sure. I mean, and whenever he's not here, people that step up, like our youth pastor, and other people that are in the church that just step up whenever our youth pastor's not here. This can be something that we forget when we're going through something hard, or going through something difficult. It's like, I don't want to talk to anyone because I want to handle this myself, when you really should bring that to someone that's wanting in your life.
That seems to be the biggest struggle that a lot of people have, is like they deal with something and they try to deal with it themselves instead of like realizing that there's so many people that they could go and talk to. Like, I really just agreeing with what you said, basically, but like, that's the worst thing to do in most cases, is to like keep it to yourself and try to figure it out on your own, because there's a lot of people out there that have either experienced it or like can figure out how to help you in ways like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Cherish your moments that you have with your pastors, youth pastors, and all friends who are, I guess, wiser than you. Your mentors. That's basically what I'm looking for. That's the word. That's why I was rambling so much. The word, we take the word for granted a lot. There's so many ways that the Bible is accessible to us. We don't even need the actual Bible. I mean, we can pull it up on our iPad. We can pull it up on our phone. We can pull it up on the internet. If we ever need to. I mean, there's always some form of a Bible that you can have if you don't have the actual book on you. And it's always good to have Bible references whenever you're talking to someone about something that they're curious about. And I'm guilty of that. I mean, not having a Bible first, so like reference for one or something. But we have technology that allows us to just pull up something. It's like, look up on Google, what's that Bible verse that says something about, I don't know, temptation. And you can find there's like 20 different references from every different book in the Bible, and I feel like we use the technology part, taking the Bible for granted too, because we can just look it up if we want to. And, it's a good tool to have, but it's also good to know your Bible. And like I said, I'm guilty of not reading it all the time.
Me too.
And like Courtney, I can say her name because she's been on this podcast before. She has recommended to me, and I know she recommended it to us at Bread Night, to have a Bible plan. And I started one. I'm a little behind, but it's a 365-day thing where you read through the Bible chronologically. That's what she led me to, because you read it, in chronological order. That way it's not jumping back and forth. It's hard to keep up with, because it's like 3 chapters a day. And, that sounds like a lot. That's a lot of time. That's taking a lot of time out of my day or something. You can either do it in the morning, do it at night, during the day when you're doing nothing. Scrolling through YouTube or whatever, or something that we would probably be doing. But if you have a hard time reading it, because what I'll do when I read is I drift off into a thought sometimes. Yeah. I'll be reading, and I get about 3 paragraphs down, and I realize I'm sitting here thinking about golf or something.
Yeah, you didn't have a clue of what you just read. Yeah. I do that all the time.
I did that in school, but it has an audio version where it reads it to you. I think that helps me lock into it more, because
I've never tried that.
Yeah, it's legit on there. I guess it wouldn't hurt to show you right quick, but right there at the very bottom, it's got a little play button.
Yeah.
And you just hit that play button. He's like
I never noticed that.
He's a British guy, but yeah, you can get it to read it for you. It's pretty cool. That helps me stay more focused. So, I do recommend that for people to have a Bible plan. You can just look up on your Bible app and just search up you can just search up any Bible plan, because in the very middle it says plans, and that's my plan. But you can search up any kind of plan or whatever, and once you have to have an account set up. But it doesn't cost nothing. You just sign up for it. But it's kind of cool. Once you get in there, every day it shows you, and it actually shows you your missed days and how far behind you are and what days you've completed and stuff like that. And I thought that was pretty cool. So that's just a recommendation. Yeah. But is there anything that you could think that comes up to your mind, like in the spiritual aspect of things, like that we take for granted?
A couple do. A big one that, like I told you when we were talking about this, the first thing would be ourselves, like our bodies. Like there's so many people out there that are that are struggling with like self-confidence or insecurities or anything like that. And I wish I should have got some, but I don't have any of the scriptures. But there's so many scriptures talking about how Jesus like stitched us in the womb, and we're all made individually in His image, and that we're all made a certain way, like we're supposed to look the way we are, we're supposed to be the way we are, like, in that physical aspect. And there's so many people that struggle with that, and like that's the biggest thing to realize, is that God created us this certain way for a reason. Like if there's an insecurity you have and then you get over that, then there's a good chance it's more than likely that somebody else is dealing with that same thing. And like you coming over that and talking to them can help them to do the same thing, and then it just starts a chain that goes on from there. That's one of the main things would be just coming to that realization, because like none of us are perfect, but we are in an aspect because we've been created in God's image, if that makes sense.
Yeah. That is a difficult thing for some people to take, because we try to, or when I say we, I'm not talking about me specifically, but I'm talking about a generation or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to call anyone out specifically, but when we don't like how we look, or we're very, what's the word? Subconscious?
Insecure.
When we're very insecure about our bodies or how we look or whatever, and we're trying to change it, God made you specifically for you, your way, and He don't need help.
Mm-hmm.
He don't need help. If you don't like what your nose looks like, you'll probably grow into it. I don't know how bodies function or whatever, but my nose and my ears were too big when I was younger, and I grew into them. My nose is still pretty big.
My body was too big when I was younger. I had a lot of baby fat.
A lot of baby fat. An example from the Bible. I don't have the verses, but I have a reference.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that would be a scripture reference. But anyway, we all know the story of Samson, right?
Mm-hmm.
He took things for granted. Like, what I mean by that, he took his gift and his calling for granted. He never really took it seriously.
Yeah.
There's times where he would tap in, but then he would start questioning God about something, and it's like, man, dude, you were stronger than everyone else in this on the earth at that time.
Yeah.
How's that not a gift from God? Which I would love that gift, but there's a reason why I don't have it. I would abuse it. But he also took his people for granted as well, because what is he? What is he? Something. He's a knight. Something knight. Nazarite.
Nazarite. Yeah.
It was a something, right? They had nothing to do with Philistines, and they were to not specifically even like date one, or whatever, or marry one. But being a Nazarite, they were like, we do not associate ourselves with Philistines and all that kind of stuff. And he fell in love with one, and he wanted to marry one. I believe he did marry her. Yeah, he did. He got married to her and all that kind of stuff, and so that already went against his people from what they believed and all that kind of stuff. And I was just kind of like, okay, so there's a thing right there. People like to say don't date outside of the church or anything like that, or if you're not equally yoked, and well, that's for marriage, but if you're not, if you don't have the same, I guess you could say beliefs, because if those beliefs clash, what's the point in being in a relationship? Because that's all you're going to argue about, and that can drag people out of the church.
Yeah.
If you're in church and you want to date outside the church, that is a very tough thing to do. I mean, people recommend don't do it. I recommend don't do it, because every girl I have dated that's been outside of the church, it's never worked out.
Yeah.
And people can be like, oh, you can flirt to convert. Yeah, but don't be dating them.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
That's what I was just about to say. Like if you're interested in somebody that's outside of the church, don't date them, but like try to become friends with them or something, and get them where they could be in church, where you could do that, because like you don't want to just throw them in the dirt, but try to get them into the church at least if you can.
Yeah. Our youth pastor, I was talking to him one time when I was dating a girl, and I knew she was curious about this, but she didn't want to get into it. Or she did, but she that's just, it's typical. I mean, that's expected. I mean, that if it's something we don't know about, we're gonna wonder. So I talked to him about it. I was like, I kind of want to try to convert her, I guess. That's the word. And he was like, well, he suggested to me, and he didn't tell me to break up with her, but he told me, he said, you need to do that as a friend, not as a boyfriend. You need to do that as a friend. And I took that for granted. I was just kind of like, oh, well, I could still do it as a boyfriend. Never worked out. And then other relationships I've been in, I've tried to convert them and stuff like that. It never works. That's why you got to do it as a friend, because the relationship thing can get in the middle of it.
Yeah.
It can get in the way completely, because that's all you argue about, and stuff like, what about this thought, and then that's all you argue about. And so that's one thing you don't need to take for granted. You need to pay attention to that if you're going to be dating outside of the church and stuff. But another rabbit trail I went off into. But back to Samson. God gave him his strength, and he took it for granted, which made him careless. And that's why I think he couldn't see what Delilah was doing to him whenever he fell in love with her or whatever. She asked him, she was like, she made a deal with the, I'm going to go ahead and say Philistines.
Yeah.
Philistines, whatever. He made a deal with the Filipinos, and, or she did, and, it's just to find out what his source of strength is. And she was like, "Do you love me?" or whatever it was. I watched a Sight and Sound Theater. I watched them do a play on him, and it was pretty interesting. And she was like, "If you love me, you'll tell me your source of strength." He's like, "Oh, I cannot tell you."
Yeah.
And she's like, "You don't love me then." He's like, "Okay." He said, "If you bind me with 7..." Okay, this is what I found on the internet, but it may be worded differently in the Bible. But it said, "Bind me with 7 moist ropes." Or vines, really. And I will lose my strength or whatever. And she's like, "Okay." So he goes to sleep. She does that. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, the Philistines are coming." He goes, "What?" Rips out of him. And she's like, "That's not your source of strength. You lied to me. If you love me, you'll tell me what your source of strength is." I would have realized it right there.
Yeah,
why do you need to know
why'd you try to do it to him asleep?
He was careless. He was just taking that relationship for granted. He was not thinking about what she was doing. And then he tells her another lie. And he was like, it was 3 things, I believe. It said, "Bind me with new ropes that have never been used." And he falls asleep again, and she does it again, and she's like, "Oh, the Philistine," rips out again, and she's like, same thing.
Yeah.
This is like, I feel like I've been through a time loop after watching this. I was like, did I just see this happen? But he didn't see it. He was just kind of like, oh, well. And again, if you love me, whatever. And he's like, "Okay, if you weave the 7 braids on my head, I will lose my strength." Did it again. Nothing. And he's like, okay, I will tell you. If you cut my hair, then I will lose my strength. That is the truth. I promise you. And you know the rest of the story.
Yeah.
Shoomp. Eyes plucked out. You know the rest of the story. So this, he got blinded because of it, and he lost his sight and all that stuff. And we know the rest of the story and all that. So the thought I have there is, if we take our blessings for granted, we can become blind and unaware of what we have. And he was blind before he even got his eyes gouged out.
Yeah.
That's what we've been talking about. We don't realize what we're doing could be bad, or we don't think about the consequences. We don't think about we don't consider what we're blessed with. So
Yeah.
I'm not saying we all do that, but we can do that. We can fall into that problem and not even think about it.
The first thing, or what comes to my mind when you say that, is I'm pretty sure it's Zechariah, and he, like with him being too old to have a kid and his wife being the same, I'm pretty sure is that Zechariah?
It was Abraham.
Was it Abraham?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, because they were too old. And
okay, I read it in a Bible plan the other day, and I think that
I read it in the Bible.
I think I read it. Okay, that's probably what it was. They probably had one about him and then one about Zechariah.
I'm gonna look up Zechariah.
I came together with him or something.
So what does it say there?
It says, "To begin our study, let's think about Zechariah. He doubted he could be a father because he was old, and so was his wife. Even though an angel of the Lord announced this promise to him, nothing made sense in that promise of God. Nothing fulfilled the natural requirements of life." And then he became mute. As what happens is, like, he doesn't think that he can become a father because of that. Like, his wife's too old, he's too old, she can't become pregnant, whatever. And then God sends down an angel and tells him that he'd provide this for him, or I'm not sure exactly how it's worded, but
I think that's right.
yeah, and that he and Zechariah, lack of the better term, doesn't believe it. Like, he just doesn't pay attention. Like, he just focuses on like the negative of it. Like, he's like, this isn't going to be able to happen and everything, even though God literally sent an angel to tell him that he could. And then so the entire time that his wife was pregnant, he was mute. And I don't know the story well enough to know if, like, God made him mute, or if he was just mute because he was so focused. Like, he just didn't talk because he was so focused on.
I think I think he became mute during the pregnancy. I think so he wouldn't say any more negative things. I remember someone preaching on that. Yeah, he was mute though during the pregnancy until
the baby. Yeah, and see, like, what that makes me think of is that, like, where was I going with that? Is that he's so busy taking for granted what's right in front of his face. He's too busy thinking about, like, the future and, like, the bad aspect of everything. He's not focusing on what's happening right in front of him. And that's what a lot of people do, like, with their body, with situations in their life, is they'll sit here and focus on what's happening right now instead of, like, the good, like, projection to come. Like, you know, like we all go through stuff in our lives, and, like, the best way that I've looked at it is to stay positive through the whole thing, because it's not always going to stay like that. And a lot of people take for granted the fact that we have that good coming, you know, like, they focus on the bad. So
they want to think about the now, what's going on right now. It's like there's no way I can get to that point.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying. Yeah, okay. I like that. That's good.
Well, the other one that came to mind was people that, like, they've got strict parents. I mean, it goes back to the relationship thing you were saying.
Yeah, I remember you said that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, they're like, my parents are so strict, they won't let me do this and this. Which, I mean, sometimes it is a little over the top, I guess, but everybody's different. And, like, they get so caught up in that they don't realize the good that it does, you know, sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because there's people out there that, like, they can do whatever they want. And, like, most of the time, those are the people that, like, you know, turn up with problems in life somewhere because they don't have that discipline. And a lot of people get so frustrated with their parents when, like, 90% of the time, you know, it's nothing to get frustrated over. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure sometimes that there is, you know, like, some over-controlling parents, but
oh, for sure,
like, especially if they're, like, Christian, God-pursuing parents that know what they're doing, you know, like, you just gotta trust in.
They know what's better for you. I've learned that for sure because my grandparents, I've lived with them for a majority of my life, and there's been times where I've wanted to go do something with some friends and stuff, and they're like, nope. I'm like, why? Well, first of all, you won't be getting home till like 12 o'clock, and I don't want you driving outside. I don't want you out driving past 11. And back, I mean, of course, now I'm old enough, and I'm older, and I can kind of handle that now, but when I was, like, younger, 18, I was just kind of like, just a little brat and didn't see the point of it, but they know that there's probably some drunk driving outside. I could get nailed by that man.
Yeah.
Or woman. You never know. Or I could just get tired and fall asleep behind the wheel, and I was just, you know, or the friends I was wanting to hang out with, I could get arrested just because I'm with them, you know, for doing something violent, and even though I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And that, it ain't just that. It's just, even in relationships, my grandparents were always like, you don't need to be dating that person. They've always told me, don't date outside the church. You don't need to be with this person because they can pull you out. 90% or 95%, I would say, of relationships where one is in the church, one is out, 95% of the time, the person that's in gets pulled out if they stay with that person. And that's pretty dangerous.
Yeah.
It's pretty dangerous. But, you know, the parents / grandparents, you know, whoever, or legal guardian that's watching over you, usually know better. But, you know, it just depends on the parents and stuff like that, of course. You know, I'm not a parent, so I can't speak for parents, but I know now that my grandparents knew what was best for Nathaniel. And I didn't see it until I got older, and I've seen consequences that happened with younger people and other people that I have cut off ties with. Now they could be caught up in drugs or in jail or just not in a good position in life. And if I would have stayed hanging out with them, I could have been just like them. And I see it now. See, that's what we want. We want a now answer thing now. If we don't get the answer now and understand now, that's the problem.
Yeah. And
we don't need to take patience for granted. You know, I don't know if you touched on that when we were talking, whenever you texted me or not, but maybe you had said something about it. But we don't need to take. Sometimes we take patience for granted because we're just like, we don't need to stop and wait. You know, and that is a difficult thing.
It is.
Being about it.
And that's patience is another thing that I think strongly of with like spiritual aspect, because that seems to be like people that struggle with anything spiritually, it seems to be like about patience or keeping faith in God, like that kind of thing, because they just want, it's like our human nature, like we want an answer. We don't want to sit here and wait for it. But that's the biggest thing, is just knowing that God has got your back, like, to put it that way. And he knows what he's doing, and everything's in the good time. So, like, you have to be patient in order for that to work out, because that's just the best way to do it, because that's the only way to do it, really, if you want to do it, because he knows what he's doing. And everything happens for a reason. Like, not anything, like, people talk about the bad things in their life. I always put quotations around that when I talk about that, because, like, sure, they seem really bad, and I mean, they are, a lot of the stuff, but everything God either lets happen to you or makes happen. Like, he makes it happen in your life.
Stronger.
Yeah. And I did a Bible study a while back and talked about stress. And stress, like, is a discipline. That's like what stress is. Stress is God telling you that you need to straighten your path, that whatever you're doing right now is just not what you should be. Like, if it stresses you out, then you need to pray about it and think about it, because that very well could be something you're doing wrong.
That's what I believe a lot of the younger generation, for sure, like, don't partake into their life because they want a now thing.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, in this generation now, we get stuff just like that.
Mm-hmm.
But you order something on Amazon, it's at your doorstep the next day.
Yeah.
So that's the problem, and I'm guilty of that too, not wanting to wait on something. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you just have to wait.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if it was you or if it was your friend that said it in Bread Night, but it's not your time and it's God's timing.
Yeah, it was my friend, and he's so right with that, because, like, I feel like I'm just gonna keep repeating myself, but it just comes all back to that. Like, it's God's timing, Like, we don't have any way to know what his plans are or to know where we're going with it. So we just got to trust that we're going the right way.
Yeah. Well, this has been good. I believe I have ran out of material before I start repeating myself. I don't know if you got any more thoughts. If you do, but
well, before we end, one more thing with, like, recent events, like, your life, don't take that for granted. Like, like, there's so many people out there that struggle with, like, feeling worthless or feeling like something's wrong or with them, or like there's like something they can't help. And I mean, a lot of the times, to put it plain, is you can't help it. God can, though. Like, you just got to pray about it. And anytime you start thinking that, just pray about it and ask God what he thinks you should do. And when you feel like that, pray, but also talk to people. Like, God provides people. Like we talked about at the beginning, like, God provides people in our lives for us to talk to about that kind of thing. So anytime you feel like that, don't take yourself for granted.
Yeah, don't go through it alone.
Mm-hmm. Like, just back to that.
Yeah.
Because that's such a big thing that people, like, it's like a lot of people deal with that, like, way more than we realize. And, just try. Like, don't assume. Like, that's my thing. Like I said earlier, I didn't really talk about it, but, like, being positive, that's, like, one of my, like, big Proverbs 17:22. You can look that up. It's a good one. It's just so helpful, like, if we just quit living so focused on the negative and think about the good, then that's my thing. Like, anytime I have a negative thought about something I'm trying to work on, change it to a positive thought, because there's always a way to do it. And, like, if you're in a bad home situation, one thing I've always thought about is, like, it's bad right now, so I'm not telling you to be positive and look forward to another day in a terrible home, but be positive and look forward to the day that you're not in there. Like, you're working your way there. And just stuff like that. Just focus on the good and don't worry so much on the bad.
Yeah, just stay on the positive
and
stuff.
Just be positive that, back to what I trailed off again, but back to what, be positive that there's somebody in your life that, even if it's not the first person you try, like, you could talk to like 3 different people and finally get to somebody that understands what you're going through or can help you with that. So just keep trying and reach out to people.
Okay, I didn't even think about that. That was a good thing. That ought to be a good thing to end it on, because I'm just gonna make it a train wreck if I try to come up with something else. But again, thank you for taking your time. I know Saturdays usually people like to just sit back and relax and all that kind of stuff, but well, I just do want to thank everyone for taking the time out of their day and watching this. It's been a fun one. It's a little bit quicker than the other ones, but it's fine. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Time doesn't matter. It only matters what we say and all that stuff. Again, with the iTunes thing, I will get that settled and everything, so do not worry about that. So, thank you all for taking the time out of your day and listening, and as always, be ready.